And so for a year, I did my own thing. And during that time, magic happened because first of all, thank God for a savings account. I was able to live off of a savings account. The doors opened in ways I never would imagined. I took this abundance class, so it was 3 months long, and that was amazing. And I met these very, very high vibing women in that class, and really gave me a great mindset. And magic started happening. And when I say magic, I mean my oldest son, who hadn't talked to me in 7 years, reached out to reconcile. Microsoft, I did presentations to Microsoft and Google about wellness, and then opportunities just kept coming in. I started my own podcast, and it was such a beautiful year. And then I had an opportunity a year later to take a job that allowed me still to do some of these presentations on the side. And now I can have a consistent paycheck. And so, all this to say, we never know our paths. Sometimes we
Mm.
just take chances and make leaps. And so that's been my career.
Welcome to the Joyful Money Podcast. This is a place for ambitious entrepreneurs who want to make a huge impact and build a life of wealth and abundance without the stress and overwhelm. I am your host, Joy Rowland, and here you'll learn how to make money the joyful way. Why the joyful way? Well, because joy is infectious. Joy exudes confidence. Joy is attractive. Joy is sexy. And joy attracts abundance. Your journey to limitless abundance starts right now. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Joyful Money Podcast. I am very excited to bring this episode to you. I know I say that all the time, that I'm very excited, but today I am super, super excited because I have a very special guest. My special guest today is Staci Berkovitz. Now, before I let her introduce herself, I'm going to read her bio so you know how amazing she is. Staci is a seasoned integrative corporate health coach with a passion for guiding others to lead healthier, more balanced lives. As a national board certified health coach, Staci blends extensive wellness expertise with a compassionate approach to managing stress and fostering personal growth. Her professional achievements include certifications such as Integrative Somatic Practitioner, Certified Meditation Leader, Positive Psychology Coach, and Mindfulness Instructor, as well as specialization in laughter yoga, Zumba, stretch, and yoga. Drawing from her own life journey and challenges she's overcome, Staci understands the transformative power of finding calm amid life's chaos. She equips clients with practical, actionable tools to build resilience, embrace joy, and thrive in all aspects of life. Staci's first book, Naked at 50, is set for release on December 10th and is now available for pre-order. Welcome to the show, Staci.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you, Joy. I've just really
Oh
enjoyed getting
gosh.
to know you. And
Oh,
you
just
called my last name sexy. So you're my friend now forever. No one says that. No
top
one says
marks for me. Top marks. I'm so excited. I'm just reading your bio there. So amazing. The things you've achieved. You're board certified. I love the part where it says laughter for yoga. Like how did that come about? First of all, I know I'm getting ahead of myself. Introduce yourself, Staci, to our audience.
Okay, well, hello everyone. I know that's more of a formal bio, but I am so happy to be here and really excited to talk about all things wellness. So let's go. Let's do it.
Oh gosh, I love the title of your book, Naked at 50. And so in my head, I'm like, why is she writing about naked at 50 when she doesn't look 50? Like in my head, you look 40. Like, am I missing something? Are you actually turning 50?
I did. I turned 50 in May.
Whoa. Okay, okay. So if you are listening on the podcast, you need to head on over to YouTube to just take a look at Stacy. And I will ask her inside of this podcast episode to tell us her secret later down the episode, because I want to know, like, how come you look so amazing at 50?
Well, thank you. That's very, very sweet. Um, I think right now it is this beautiful Zoom filter that is very helpful, but I am not a drinker. I have never really been a drinker, so I think that's helpful. I've taught fitness for 13 years and mindfulness.
Mm,
When I am stressed, I feel like I look 10 years older, and when I have joy, I feel like I look 10 years younger. So it really is like inside out approach on many levels. But thank you. I received that. I received your you have a sexy last name compliment you gave me before
yeah.
we start, which again, you're the only person who's ever said that to me. And I appreciate the um, saying that I looked younger. Those are both very sweet
You
things to say.
you are most welcome, Stacey. Now, on this podcast, I like to give listeners a view into my guest lives. So, can you tell us about your journey? How did you get to where you are today?
Oh goodness. Yeah, come along with me in this long train ride. So basically, I grew up in Arizona. I've been in Texas. I live in the state of Texas in the United States, and I've been here for 20 something years. And at the time, I was married, so we moved out here. And I was a school teacher. So I was a school teacher in Arizona. And then when we came out to Texas, I thought, well, let me take a little break. And that lasted 4 months because I was bored. And so I became a substitute teacher. And then they said, we want you as one of our teachers. And I went back into the teaching world. And I also taught graduate classes. And so teaching has always been kind of in my blood because after I left teaching, I homeschooled my kids for a couple of years while starting my own business teaching English as a second language to adults. And then from there, I did that for several years. Did some other things as we sometimes do. Joy and I talked beforehand about what she did when she lived in the UK to you do what you
Mm,
need to do to make ends meet. And sometimes it's multiple jobs. And so I had my main job as teaching ESL to adults, English as a second language. And then I had some other jobs in the background as well. Became certified to teach Zumba and yoga during that process. And
mm,
then what happened after that is I knew my contract, my teaching in the corporate world was ending. I was contracted out. It was a 5 year long contract. And I thought, well, I have a master's degree. I've taught adults for many, many years. Um, and I've taught them at the graduate level or at the professional business level. It'll be so easy to move into a corporate training role. And I went into one of those employment offices to see if I could get a lead on becoming a corporate trainer. It just seemed like a very easy transition. And I'll never forget what she told me. She said, do you have any HR background? And I said, no. And she said, I don't think you can become a corporate trainer. And I
mm,
said, I have been teaching for my whole career life. She said, yeah, but you don't have that HR background. And I was so taken back. And she said, you'd be great in PR, public relations. And I said, but I'm an educator, I'm a teacher, I'm a trainer. She said, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Well, it was enough of a no, I can't help you. Sorry, you can't do this to be like, oh, watch me. So I applied for lots of training positions. And a few months later, I became a corporate trainer for a company. And I did that for a few years. And then I transitioned. My passion was always wellness. So I was teaching fitness classes on the side during this whole time, but I didn't know that I could do something career wise with it
mm,
because when you teach at a gym, you don't make a lot of money, right? So I didn't see a way that I could bring this passion for overall wellness into a career setting. So I continued as a corporate trainer. And then one day I randomly applied to be a wellness coach for a health insurance company we have here in the States. And we had to film a video. It was like a weird thing as part of the application process. And through different steps, I got the job. And I remember the person telling me there were people that were so much more qualified than you, because at that time I didn't have all these certifications, I didn't have the experience. But she said there was something about you that I knew you'd be perfect for
mm,
this role. And I think sometimes we feel this imposter syndrome, like, why could I be doing this? Why, but I didn't have that when I was applying. It was more of a like, why not? This is what I want to do. This job description sounds like my dream. Let me just go for it. And it worked out. And I did that for several years. And it was just a beautiful experience. I've coached now over 2,000 people. And I did that for a while. And then I thought the pandemic came and I still was doing that, but we went remote and I just started really enjoying the remote work lifestyle. So about 2 years later, when we were supposed to go back, I thought, I don't think I want to go back. I think I want to
Mm,
find something remote. So I did that for a while, found a new job. And then about a year and a half into that job in April or May of 2023, the CEO and the HR director got on a call with our whole wellness department and said, "Y'all are amazing." And we said, "Oh, thank you." And she said, "But we're laying you all off because it's no longer since the pandemic, it's not a money producing type of role or department anymore." And so we had about 7 weeks. They were very generous, and we worked for 7 weeks. It was very odd to be working knowing there was an end, but we did. And the company that was absorbing our wellness department offered me a job. And
mm,
I had already 3 months before that started taking marketing classes because I thought, why don't I do a side thing? I'll do my main job and then I want to do like side coaching or side presenting. And so I had already taken a marketing class and was getting additional certifications. I had been getting lots of certifications over the years at this point, but I was getting additional ones. And they offered me a job. And when I went to go accept it at my computer, when I went to press enter, I couldn't. I almost felt like a hand was pulling me back from my
mm,
acceptance letter. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm
mm,
supposed to do my own thing. And so for a year, I did my own thing. And during that time, magic happened because first of all, thank God for a savings account. I was able to live off of a savings account. The doors opened in ways I never would imagined. I took this abundance class, so it was 3 months long, and that was amazing. And I met these very, very high vibing women in that class, and really gave me a great mindset. And
mm,
magic started happening. And when I say magic, I mean my oldest son, who hadn't talked to me in 7 years, reached out to reconcile.
mm,
I did presentations to Microsoft and Google about wellness, and then opportunities just kept coming in. I started my own podcast, and it was such a beautiful year. And then I had an opportunity a year later to take a job that allowed me still to do some of these presentations on the side. And now I can have a consistent paycheck. And so, all this to say, we never know our paths. Sometimes we
mm,
just take chances and make leaps. And so that's been my career. And then on a personal level, I've been married once and divorced. I've been divorced since 2013 and have four beautiful now grown children that were, Joy and I were talking about this, that were adopted from Russia as youngish children. They were between ages 5 and 10 when they were adopted. And I'm a grandma of a 5-year-old, and Joy has a 5-year-old. And so we have, just skip generation, but we both have 5-year-olds in our lives. And so that is a little bit of a personal overview about my
mm.
life.
Oh my gosh. Congratulations, first of all, on being a grandma. And such an inspirational story. And just listening to you as you told your story of how your career has progressed, I can see how you've taken steps without even knowing what the future held for you, right? At every point, you were making yourself available, and then opportunities were showing themselves as you were taking steps. And I like that so much because many times people want to see the entire staircase before they take steps. But
Hmm.
you were taking one step at a time, and then those opportunities were presenting themselves to you. Like find that so profound and inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm very sure many people needed to hear that today, me included. So thank you very much. I want to talk about how you help your clients to reduce or overcome bad stress, right? Because just looking at you, you glow, you look so successful. I want listeners to learn how you have been able to help your clients to reduce stress, especially in the world we live in today. Like there's stressors everywhere we turn. So tell us, how do you help your clients to reduce stress?
Yeah. So I coached for many years, and now I do presentations,
Mm,
formal presentations on how to manage stress. So it's more of instead of a one-on-one coaching, it's more of I'm presenting for companies. but it's the same principle. It's the same
Mm,
principle. And I will say, I have the tools now. I have the
mm,
skill set, and my brain has made the connections on how to do it. And yet, I still have days where all of a sudden I have 8 chocolate wrappers in the trash from my stress eating, right? So like, let's keep this real. We have tools and we get better and better and we get perspective and we get resiliency, but we still are going to have days when there's
mm.
chocolate wrappers in the trash. And
Yeah.
to give ourselves the grace when that happens. October was a very stressful month for me. Very, very stressful. If you can think about what is an area of stress, it probably happened. It was very stressful. And I literally was like, I know what to do. I know what to
Mm,
do when I'm stressed. I know I go take a walk. I know I breathe. I know I talk to friends. I know. And I could not regulate my nervous system to get back to that calmness. And it was frustrating because I teach
mm,
this and I'm happy to share a few things. But it was such a good reminder of A, I'm glad I had the tools to pull from, and B, to give yourself grace when you're really, really stressed and you can't get to where you want to be in neutral because your body is still giving you information when that's happening. And that information is something needs to change. And I love you so much. Your body's saying, I love you so much. I'm trying to protect you. And you are so stressed. And so I'm just going to keep firing cortisol because it sounds like you really need the
mm,
stress right now. And so what ended up happening is I went to a dating event called Tantra Dating. And you rotated around the circle like a speed dating, but much more of a connected one. And you rotated around the circle. And one of the last activities, which in the real world would have freaked me out, but one of the last activities, so you rotate partners, was you asked them to hold you. You asked them to hold you, which I know, like, it's not somebody I would be like, anyway, in the real world, please hold me. But you're in this setting, you feel this connection, there's this no expectation type of thing. And so for
mm,
2 minutes, this man I had never met before was holding me as the facilitator was speaking to all of us. And I felt my whole body release. And it's a somatic technique. It's a co-regulation technique when you hold somebody, both of you being willing to be held, of course, that both of you benefit from releasing. And so I share that because if there's anyone who's listening who has these tools in their toolbox that they normally can do, such as going for a walk, deep breathing, lots of different breathing techniques to help regulate your nervous system, even doing a self hug, tapping. There's just a lot of different techniques you can use to regulate and calm your nervous system in times of stress. And because they weren't working for me, it took this co-regulation of somebody holding me to help me release. And since that time, I've been okay. I've been able to, although things have been stressful, I've been able to use my regular tools to help walk me through that. So I think it's just important to know that to know how to have a lot of tools in your toolbox for when you're stressed that you can pull from and pulling the ones that work for you because there's so many things out there you can do for stress, but what works for you? What is the most loving thing you can do for your body in moments of stress? And maybe it is eating 8 pieces of chocolate. Or maybe that's your body showing you, hey, I'm super dysregulated.
mm.
Let's do something. So anyway, long answer to your question, but we all have stress. We all have times we need co-regulation or we need to get regulated. And so pulling from these different modalities and also having people in our lives that can really help us regulate, whether it's talking or holding us, is really important.
Oh, wow. That is profound. I love how you talk about the hug. Like, I have heard this before, but I never paid attention. What I heard in the past was find someone you can give a hug to in a non-sexual way. And that makes a lot of sense because if you think about it as humans, we are tribal. We always lived in communities, but society right now, like many people are single, whether by intention or unintentionally. And so I feel like there is that void of human to human connection, which is actually vital for our survival as well as to co-regulate, like you said, to help reduce stress. And I know for myself, when I'm going through stuff and I pick up the phone and I talk to a friend, I feel a lot better. So I like that that's one of the techniques you help clients with, albeit you said corporate clients. Now, I want to delve into your book because I find it so fascinating. The title, I want you to tell us about it. How did you come up with the idea to write a book titled Naked at 50? And what does Naked at 50 actually mean?
Okay, such a good question, and I'm so excited to share it. So last year, when I was, quick math, 49, I was kind of dreading turning 50. It felt like an old number to me. Like 50 is when things were just, it was all downhill from there. This is my mindset last year. And was I going to be able to date and find a person? Was I going to be able to still live my full life? I've traveled a ton. I really have embraced life. And I thought, when I'm 50, is that going to change? What's going to be altered? And I really sat with that for a couple months. And then I decided that I was going to spend a year, my 50th year, doing 50 experiences I've never done before. And so this entire year, I have intentionally chosen 50 experiences and then decided to write about it. So what started as sharing it on my podcast, and then about March, I was like, why am I not writing? Like I felt this pull to write about it. So I began writing about the experiences. And then Naked at 50, it's twofold. When you're 50, there is this sort of, and for women, your hormones are changing. Who you were at 40, maybe what you struggled with, looks very different at 50. At 50, there's some peace you find in yourself. Like things that used to bother you don't really as much anymore. Things that um, you would put up with, you no longer do. And there's almost this caterpillar to butterfly metamorphosis that happens when you turn 50. And it feels very vulnerable, but in the best way, like almost starting over, hence the naked. You're starting over, you're open to the experiences. When I got to experience 38 or 39, I said, okay, I need to, because some of the experiences flowed to my life because I was open to it. Some I found and some found me. And when I got to 39, I was like, okay, I'm butting up against, I have my number 50 experiences is to write and publish a book. And so I knew in order to do that in 2024 that I would need to be strategic about the last few experiences. So I wrote them out on a piece of paper, and a friend of mine said, read them to me. And so I did. And he said, seriously, bird watching? No. He said, you need to come up with one so out of context, character, what you would normally do experience. Because, and I'm like, but I went on a private chat. I did this. He goes, no, something that stretches you way more than you've been stretched before. So at first I was a little offended because I was thinking, I've done a lot of things. How dare you? And then I thought about it. I'm like, he's wrong. And so I decided to go to a nudist resort as one of my experiences, which is so far out, so far out. You should see Joy's eyes right now. So far out of what's normal for me in my life. And so I did. I flew from Texas to Colorado, and I went to a nudist resort, and you'll have to read in the book on how that went. But Naked at 50 became very aligned with that experience and title after that.
Oh my goodness. I love that story so much. Now I cannot wait for your book to drop because I want to know what happened. Wow. So how did you come up with that title? Like it's so catchy, it's so you. Like how did the idea for the title come about?
Yeah, great question. So kind of both of those things. The first thing was when the experience of the nudist resort became available, it just felt like, hey, this is a
Mm,
line. And then also 50 is naked. You're starting over. You're feeling like you're in the beginning stage. You're being open to the world. So it's that very new birth. We're naked at birth. So it's like 50 is almost a new birth. It's being naked or open or vulnerable at this
mm.
new.
Oh wow. So then you mentioned that you had this as number 50 to write a book. Like how was that experience for you? Because that is new. Like up until now, you had never written a book, correct?
Correct. Yeah, yeah. Kind of correct. I never have written a book that has been published. So I wrote a book, goodness, like 20 years ago, and it was terrible. It was such a random book. It was a fiction book, but it was terrible. And I sent it to one publisher and they were like, thanks, but no thanks. And I totally forgot about this, right? So nothing happened to it. It sat in a binder. I found it in my garage this summer. I was going through containers and I was like, oh my gosh. And I read a few pages and I was like, thank you, God. Thank you, universe, that nobody said, yes, I will publish this because it was terrible. It was like such a terrible book. So, and it's not me just being hard on myself. It truly would have been embarrassing. This book would have been published. Okay, it was fine. But I really wanted to write and publish a book. I really wanted to do that. And so we live in a time now. In the past, if you wanted to publish a book, you would either have like a literary agent or you would have to scout out different publishing companies. You'd have to send letter of interest and give them samples of your book and all the things. And that has changed just like the rest of the world. And so now there are many self-publishing companies out there that will work with you. There's coaches now, there's writing coaches that will work with you. I did not use a writing coach. I was very fortunate after I wrote my book, my sister and another friend my sister's an editor. She was an editor for a newspaper and a friend were able to edit my book for me. But I was able to do that. I connected with an amazing self-publishing company. And so
Mm,
you hand it over to them, they edit it, they format your book, they get it loaded onto Ingram Sparks or Amazon or however it works. And then the book is available for purchase. So I designed the cover, I gave it to them, and then they spiffied up the cover in the software they had to make it look better. But so it's been a process. And it's
mm,
funny because it's the last experience in my book, it's number 50, but you can only write so much of the experience because the book has to be turned over to a publisher. So in the book, I wrote as much as or in that experience, I wrote as much as I could. But then obviously, after it goes to the publisher, you can't keep writing, right? So
yeah.
that's where it's at. Yeah.
Wow. Again, congratulations on your new book. I cannot wait to read it. How did you how did you become so bold and audacious to follow your dreams? Like, did that come naturally to you? How did you build that self-confidence to go for your dreams?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, and I know you and I have talked about this, there's sometimes you're just kind of have a grit inside you. And I think for
Mm,
some people that's just in there. And then I think for some people it's developed. And I think after talking with you and then also internally, I think that grit has been there. I
mm,
think the way I was raised, and I think this definitely affects us. The way I was raised was my parents were always putting me in different activities from Girl Scouts or synchronized swimming or, running or whatever it was. Like I was always being put in activities. So I had such an array of experiences to figure out where my talents lied. Spoiler alert, not in synchronized swimming. And it was just really interesting to find out about myself. So there was a lot of self-exploration. I didn't have, again, that verbiage to share what self-exploration was, but I was essentially, my parents were giving me opportunities to um, explore who I was. And I think that helped.
mm,
Um, I think value was connected to achievement in my family. I mean, I have a loving parents, but I think a lot of the value as parents sometimes do, guilty, is achievement, right? And so my self-worth so much has been connected to doing. So
mm,
something that I'm unlearning, which is going to be a process, this is my own pillback of layers, is to being instead of doing. But if I'm looking at the silver lining or the good of that is I've really experienced a lot in this life and have said, I'm going to take chances. And I have. I've taken a lot of chances. And not all of them have ended with a pot of gold or, glitter and sparkle. Some of them have ended very difficult with taking chances, but I learned from it. And so I think it's another skill set. You just,
mm,
as you continue to take chances, some of them work out, some of them don't, but you start getting that almost muscle memory in your brain of, I'm going to be safe even if this doesn't work out.
mm. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's really, really inspiring. So then what drives you? What's your why?
That's my why. life is short.
Hmm.
Life is short. Be good to people and live life to the fullest because um, this is our only chance to be on this planet. And so
Hmm.
do all you can while you're here. And I think losing people when you're younger and you lose people, that sticks with you. And I, as in the very first chapter of my book, I write about my mom. And she was 52 when she was diagnosed with cancer. I'm 50 now, right? So she was 52. And she died 6 weeks later. And when I was really wrestling with being 50, I had to remember it's a privilege to be alive.
Yeah. Wow.
And so that drives me. That drives me. We are privileged to be here. We are privileged to figure it out. We are privileged to live in the mess because this is part of our journey and our story.
Oh gosh, I am so sorry you had to experience that. I truly am sorry to hear that. And I I think that has fueled your drive. And because you've embraced that experience, you are now almost like a proof of what's possible for women. And so thank you for sharing your life with the world. And I love that you said life is short because I have a similar experience with my cousin. She had just turned 40 and she was diagnosed with breast cancer and we lost her. She had three little children that she left behind. And so that loss actually helped me to put life into perspective, exactly like you just described. And I told myself, why would I let my insecurities hold me back from giving my all to life when this life is so short and tomorrow is not promised? So thank you so much for sharing that. And listeners, I'm sure you're very inspired by Stacy's story, and this inspiration is a clue for you to take action. Whatever you've been putting off in life, just go ahead and do it so you can live your most fulfilled life. Stacy, I am so happy. I am so blessed that I brought you on this podcast because I am learning from your life as you share. And when I go back and I listen, I'm sure I will pick up even more wisdom and nuggets from what you have shared. So I still want to talk about Naked at 50, but I'm going to wait until the book comes out and maybe we can bring you on back and I can ask more questions. But is there anything else you want to share with our audience before I let you go? I can't believe we're almost at 25 minutes already, but I want to ask, is there anything you want to share with us, Stacy?
That's such a great question. I guess my parting thought would be if you feel the fire
Hmm.
and the flow, that's the sign you need.
Hmm. Wow. That's a mic drop moment right there.
That
If you feel the fire and the flow, that's all you need.
will lead
Wow.
you. That will lead you. So, so often, final thought, so often
Hmm.
we we push against closed doors and that's good for us a little bit, right? That builds up our muscle. But let the flow happen
Hmm.
because sometimes the flow is the biggest clue of the direction you're supposed to take. So just
Hmm.
really being open to flow as opposed to what you think it has to look like. Just be open to the flow of where it's leading you.
Wow. Wow. That is so profound. And I'm going to be thinking about that for the rest of the day. So, Stacy, before I let you go, where can listeners grab your book? Amazon, right?
You can do it Amazon. Eventually, it'll be on Barnes and Noble and some other retailers, but Amazon, that's where most people get their books.
Yeah.
You can grab it
Okay.
from.
Okay. So, someone is listening right now. They want to connect. They want to find out more how to work with you. Like, how can people move forward? Like, do you, where can people reach you on social media?
They can. I'm semi-active on social media. So you can find me. I have 2 Instagram accounts. Naked at 50 has the pictures from each experience in the book. So if you get the book, it may be fun for you to look at the pictures to see what was happening during that time. And then my business one is Living on the Exhale. That's also on Instagram. And then you can jump onto my website, ontheexhale.com. There's some information there. There's some free stuff. If you want some free stuff, you can grab that as well. I just have made it my life mission to try to inspire people. So hopefully something along the way will inspire your listeners, either from listening to this conversation today or grabbing something from the website or looking at the random pictures on Naked at 50 on Instagram. So thanks for
Awesome.
having me.
So, listeners, I'm going to drop all of those links in the show notes if you are listening on the podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, it's going to be in the description. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Staci, for coming. I am so happy to have had you on this podcast. And congratulations again on your new book.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today. It was a total
Audience, grab a copy. Let's get the book to a New York Times #1 bestseller. That's the goal. So let's go. Thank you, Staci.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for spending time with me today. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to subscribe so you never miss an update. Let's continue this journey of growth and success together. Don't forget to connect with me on social media for more tips and inspiration. And remember, your ambitions are valid, your potential is limitless, and you deserve a business that brings you both joy and fulfillment. Until next time, keep taking action, be joyful, and you will create success beyond your wildest dreams. Sending you lots of love, peace, joy, and light. Bye for now.